That was why she'd been selected from all the others in the land to be queen. Her uncle Mordecai told her, could it be that you come to the kingdom for such a time as this? God had a purpose behind it all from the beginning. And God has a purpose in your life today. God has planned things for each of us here today. The meaning behind it goes on from day to day. There's a reason for every experience, whether it was good or bad. There is a master plan behind it all. And I've come to preach to you here today that the moment of time we stand in is great. And God is looking to use average, ordinary people to do great things. Not because we're special. Not because we're holier than anybody else. Not because we've got it all together. God is looking to use us because we're standing in a moment of time that is great. The needs of souls have never been greater. The influence of sin has never been greater. Families have never struggled more. People have never seen a more trying time. Young people have never been more misdirected by our culture and generation. Time is great. The gravity of the moment is immense. And God is looking to use you and me in this hour. He's prepared us for it all of our lives. There's been a purpose to bringing you here to HYC this year. I believe you come here expecting something. There's something different in the air. There's something different in the spirit. There's a hunger that I've never felt before. There's a passion that I've never felt before. I tell you, the time is great. And God is about to send a worldwide revival. We read in Daniel chapter 11 that those who know their God will be strong and do exploits. You see, I believe God's going to do it. But we have to prepare ourselves. We have to make room for God to work through us. If you read all that Daniel was telling us there, you find that the general theme of the passage is about all kinds of destruction and trouble and turmoil. He just got done describing the downfall and destruction of kingdoms. In the middle of all that, Daniel pauses. He says, but the people that know their God shall be strong and do exploits. I don't care what kind of baggage you bring to the table today. I don't care what your family situation is here this morning. I don't care what kind of trouble you're going through in this house today. Could I tell you, in the midst of all of that, if you know God, if you know God, come on. Mom and Daddy may not be getting along, but if you know God, you may not have the money that everybody else has got, but if you know God, your youth group may not have more than five. It may not have more than one, but if you know God, you may be the only one that's young person in your school, but if you know God, you've got something that nobody else has got. You've got a power, you've got an anointing, you've got a move in the spirit. I know God. Come on, you got to make room for Him. You got to hear His voice. You got to let your heart be sensitive. You got to know Him. The Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar had overthrown Jerusalem. And among others, Daniel was taken back to Babylon at a very early age, perhaps as young as some of you. There he is taken from his home, without his parents, without his pastor. His life was totally in disarray. But he knew God. And through the life of Daniel, we see the example of someone who knew God and was used in mighty ways. He refused to eat the king's meat. He refused to defile himself with the things of the world. Come on, somebody. The fact is, he knew God. And because he knew God before it was over, Daniel was more fair than all the rest. And they had to eat what Daniel ate. There's a place for purity. There's a place to keep your heart pure from the things of the world. There's a place that we've got to keep separate from the things of the world, because if I'm going to know God, He's not going to come in if all of that junk is in there. They passed laws against Daniel. Tried to stop him from praying. Tried to stop his walk with God. Does that sound familiar to anybody? But Daniel knew God. And he opened his window anyway. And he looked toward Jerusalem. And he talked to God. Oh, Daniel, you can't do that. They'll throw you in the lion's den. But he knew God. Oh, and God delivered him and shut the mouth of the lions because he knew God. If you're going to know somebody, you've got to talk to them. You've got to converse with them. You've got to hear their voice. You've got to tell them what's on your heart. If you're going to know God, you've got to make room for prayer. You've got to make room to hear his voice. You've got to make room for God. There was a time that Daniel fasted. He was sorrowful. He was troubled in his heart, and so he fasted for 21 days, and he had a heavenly supernatural visitation at the end of 21 days. I tell you, Daniel knew his God. Amen. How does this apostolic power, how does this apostolic authentic church happen? Jesus said, howbeit this kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. You want to know him? You've got to make room for him. You've got to push away from this world. Push away from what others are doing to make room for God. If you want to know him, you need to know his word. You know his word, you know him. The word was with him. The word was him. I tell you today, I'd rather know God than anyone else. I'd rather know God than the President of the United States. I'd rather know God than the Governor of Texas. I'd rather know God than any kind of sports figure or any Hollywood star. I tell you, I've got to know him. I've got to know him. Somebody in this house today, it's a call going forth. You've got to know your God. You've got to make room because God wants to do something great. Come on, who is it today? You're sitting out here, you're thinking, I'm not nothing special. I don't have any talents. I could never preach. I could never sing. I could never be used like that. I'm not popular at school. I don't have the clothes everybody else wears. But I tell you, if you know your God, none of those things matter. God will make a way for you. God will make a room for you.